Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This will be my full Alien Earth Episode 6 video. There are a whole bunch of Easter eggs and references, so we'll break it all down. Wendy seems like she's getting way more friendly with the Xenomorphs, lots of questions being raised about what she's going to do if she's able to control more Xenomorphs. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. There's actually a pretty good chance now that it's going to be getting a Season 2 as well, but we'll talk about that after the series is done. The episode title was The Fly, which is a reference both to David Cronenberg's Jeff Goldblum Fly movie in the 80s. Creator Noah Hawley said that the movie was one of the inspirations for the series, and it's also a reference to the fly, the winged creature of the different alien specimens that we haven't really seen that much of yet until this episode. And even though we finally get to see the fly creature actually do something, we find out there's two fly creatures, like there's multiple ones now coming out of that hive. Really, the MVP of the episode actually winds up being the eyeball creature who's orchestrating this grand escape plan, which actually seems way more sophisticated than Hermit, Wendy's brother's escape plan. It even kind of feels like Eyeball Creature is now turning into the actual protagonist of the series. Like, we've been thinking this is an alien series, Alien Earth, it's all about the Xenomorphs, it's all about the hybrids, but what if it's really about the Eyeball Creature? The actual episode starts in the same style, the title reveal based on the Alien movies, but with a recap of scenes from the previous episodes. They start the episode with Wendy inside the lab talking to the Xenomorph in its language. You can hear the little clicking, the screeching sounds behind the closed doors in the lab. It shows the remaining eggs intact. There are 5 at the beginning of the episode. Now at the end of the episode, because of what happened to Arthur, there are only 4 intact eggs. Boy Cavalier's voiceover is reading more to the hybrids from the Peter Pan book. This time it's a passage about Peter Pan himself at the beginning of the story, with the passage about Wendy coming to big realizations, like she's starting to have big understandings about the world in general, setting up Wendy's arc in the episode where she starts to realize that maybe Prodigy are not the good guys. There have been more and more things in the series implying that she's going to eventually rebel against Prodigy. There are things that are driving her to hate Prodigy slowly, and that starts to happen in a bigger way in this episode. Also, because there's so many Peter Pan metaphors laid onto all the characters and the story in general, you think about it, if Boy Cavalier is meant to be the Peter Pan of the actual story, even though there's a bit of a twist to that later in the episode where they make the eyeball creature seem like the Peter Pan of the story. I'll talk about that in a second. If you think about Boy Cavalier as being the Peter Pan of the story, and Morrow as being the Captain Hook of the story, Captain Hook eventually does face Peter Pan. Morrow's whole deal on the show is that he wants to kill Boy Cavalier to get revenge for what seems like his life's work going completely off the rails. So eventually we will probably see Boy Cavalier have to face off against Morrow at some point by the end of the show. There are a couple big characters that went out in this episode. I know we're all just waiting for Boy Cavalier to have some spectacular ending, but if they're going to be doing multiple seasons, we will see if he survives to a future season. While he's still doing his voiceover, they show the rest of the alien specimens in their various containment cells because most of them wind up getting out or about to get out by the end of the episode. Notice how the eyeball creature, watching Wendy talk to the Xenomorph intently because it also knew how to speak the Xenomorph's language, so it knows what Wendy is saying to the Xenomorph nearby. So how do you think the eyeball creature feels about Wendy and the Xenomorphs just in general? Like, I think it's very wary of the Xenomorphs. Like, it's not a friend to the Xenomorphs because remember, it tried to use Shmuel to kill the Xenomorph and then try to take over its body unsuccessfully on the Maginot. So I think the idea, it being super intelligent, it notices that Wendy is now becoming a friend of the Xenomorphs, so maybe it thinks if it can control Wendy or it can cozy up with Wendy, that will be its path to being able to control or deal with the Xenomorphs itself if it has to. Because it does seem like at various points in the episode, the eyeball creature is the one who's really pulling all the strings behind its little cage here inside the sheep. Like, if anybody's using the hybrids and the other alien specimens as chess pieces, it's the eyeball creature playing chess with all these pieces. Then you see a clock, the fly creature, which I think is just set up for what happens with Toodles or Isaac, whatever you want to think about him, later in the episode, when it uses him to start the escape plan. Talking more about the new Xenomorph, notice that it's molted, it's quickly growing to full size. It actually gets much bigger by the end of the episode, but it's still not completely full size by the end of the episode. You notice Kirsch is with her brother, and they're watching her talk to it from the other side of the glass, the other side of the containment cell. Kirsch seems absolutely fascinated by all this. Like, he's treating this as some grand science experiment. He's not actually sentimental for any of the people, any of the relationships between different characters at all. He doesn't even seem like he cares about the Prodigy people either. He even flat out lies to Boy Cavalier at the end of the episode. And remember, he knows all about what Morrow is doing to Slightly's plan to get a Xenomorph off of the island, and he's letting it all just play out like he's just fascinated by it as some grand social science experiment. It doesn't necessarily make Kirsch evil, but he's also not a friend to any of the characters on the show. Then we learn a bunch more hybrid facts. They can go 2 years without having to recharge. Notice Wendy's brother asks him for more details on their maintenance requirements, all because he's trying to figure out how to escape the Prodigy base with her, which Kirsch instantly picks up on, like, you think they're actually going to let you leave and have a life with her? No way that's ever going to happen. Basically the same thing that Adam told him when he gave him the new contract in an earlier episode, like, there's no way on earth you're going to be able to leave with your sister. You remember that Wendy and the hybrids are functionally immortal unless some other outside force tries to destroy them, which does wind up happening to Toodles, R.I.P. But Kirsch implies Wendy's brain will evolve to the point where she's able to invent faster-than-light travel because the hybrids' brains are evolving so quickly, so far beyond natural synth brains, which so far in the Alien universe, they have not figured out faster-than-light travel, even by the events of Alien Resurrection, which is the latest in the timeline we've ever been. This is why the Maginot's mission took 65 years, why they have to use the cryopods, the whole strategy of cycling people in, people out, so they don't age up too quickly over that 65 years. It would solve a lot of problems with the companies, the different 5 companies, expanding beyond the Milky Way galaxy too. The other thing going on here too, you probably detected, is Kirsch is giving off a lot more David vibes when he talks about Wendy's grand destiny. He also talks about Hermit as if he is inferior as a regular human, like she's way far beyond you, way more advanced. So the whole idea is that David thought himself superior to his creators, Weyland of Weyland Yutani, and then sought to play God himself by creating the Neomorphs, his line of Xenomorphs. Then we see Arthur and Dame Sylvia scan Nibs. Adam seems pissed, thinking about the practicality of the whole situation, a hybrid gone crazy, potential $1 trillion investment lost if they have to terminate her, and there's supposedly some big celebration, some big meeting with the heads of the other 5 companies coming, which is probably going to be the finale of the series. Basically, the idea here is that instead of trying to treat the underlying problems with Nibs, maybe psychological problems that it sounds like she had before she underwent the hybrid transformation process, he just wants them to medicate her, or the hybrid's version of medicating, by basically just pulling the memories out of her like a hard drive. Basically slapping a band-aid on the problem instead of treating the underlying cause for the problems themselves, whatever psychological problems might still be happening inside of Nibs.
What's wrong with me? I don't have any of that.
Notice also that Arthur and Sylvia say that these problems are going to come back way worse unless we deal with the root causes, which Adam does not seem to care about, meaning that something really, really bad, even worse, will wind up happening with Nibs during the finale. Cannot wait to see things go spectacularly bad. That's also kind of what Morrow sounds like he wants to happen by the end of the finale too, because he talks to Yutani about creating chaos on the island and using that as an opportunity to get their Xenomorph off of the island. Although there are a lot of other factors that are contributing to this, so it's not like Morrow is doing this all by himself. Like, there are many different things going wrong in the right way on the island so that chaos will just completely blow up at the end. You kind of start to see where the theories about them nuking the island from orbit come from by the end of this series. Like, who survives into season 2? Will they just nuke the island by the end of the series because things go so crazy and off-board? But it sounds like the way that Sylvia is talking about it, that Nibs grew up when she was a child when they were selecting her with some sort of psychological trauma or some unresolved issues or just psychological problems in general that they tried to fix when they transferred her consciousness to the robot body, or however that went down. There are a lot of theories. Maybe they're just AIs running around thinking that they're human. Maybe they just cloned the data onto AI brains. But either way, the thing that they tried to fix did not get fixed. Just remember this big presentation that Adam referenced that's probably going to be happening in the last episode or the last 2 episodes. Arthur then rebels, saying that he won't do it, but his wife, remember Sylvia, says she will do it. There are a couple weird moments here where they have to remind you that they are married. I never really got that vibe from them earlier in the series, and it actually took a couple episodes in before someone literally referenced it on the show before I actually realized it. Like, wait a minute, they're supposed to be married. That doesn't make sense. Maybe there's some deleted scenes or some deleted subplot or something they changed during the editing process, and this wasn't originally their plan. Adam then fires Arthur in retaliation, implying if he's still around on the island at the end of the day, he'll be shot. This is also for plot reasons, because Slightly uses him as the incubator for the next Xenomorph, and he needs to hide the body for a couple days until the chestburster is ready to emerge, and it would be weird if people are worried about Arthur and looking for him around the island, so they'll just assume now, probably, that he left the island and that's why he's not around anymore. Just giving that new Xenomorph some time to cook in the oven. Wendy then talks to her brother about getting better at speaking Xenomorph, becoming fluent, and how she's beginning to empathize with them more, implying that eventually she will side with them over Prodigy and help the Xenomorphs, maybe the other alien specimens too, maybe even Eyeball Creature, because it sounds like Eyeball Creature won't have any problem talking to her if it uses the Xenomorph language as a substrate. Like, you know what, we both speak the Xenomorph language, why don't we also have a conversation with each other? All it needs to do is just jump into someone's body that has the vocal cords that can reproduce those clicks. There's a brief moment where her brother doesn't really understand that the Xenomorphs have their own subculture. She tries to explain that they're not that different from humans, making the bees and colonies metaphor. When she starts talking about the yes and no place, she mentions it's something that Boy Cavalier told the hybrids, mostly as a way to keep them from telling him no. Like, he sounds like he would do that to them, just say whatever he needs to say to get them to say yes to anything that comes out of his mouth. Please do not question me, ever, for any reason. Her brother basically helps set up the twist at the end of the episode where she does question whether or not Prodigy are the bad guys talking to Dame Sylvia. Like, wait a minute, my brother was talking to me about this. Even Kirsch was trying to tell her to be less human. Just seems like a couple different people, couple of different forces on the show are pushing her against Prodigy. Probably setting up a twist where Wendy does say no to Boy Cavalier at some point and takes the Xenomorph side. And remember, Arthur also just showed her brother how to turn off all of Prodigy's controls for the hybrids.
That no gives you power. It gives you power over your body, power over your life.
Meaning it's going to be way harder for Prodigy to lock them down remotely the way it normally would, like if somebody stole your phone. Couple other important details here too. When he talks to her about leaving, remember, Boy Cavalier and the other Prodigy people can watch and listen to everything through the hybrid's eyes and ears. They're kind of like cameras walking around, basically. So I don't think that Wendy knows about this fact yet, and we've already seen that Kirsch has been tapping into the hybrids, listening to their conversations, because that's how he knows about Slightly talking to Morrow. But outside of Kirsch and his Strike Force team, it seems like nobody at Prodigy is really clued into what Hermit is trying to plan. And it seems like there's a lot that Kirsch has not told Boy Cavalier about. Then we finally see Boy Cavalier flying into the city to have his arbitration meeting with Yutani. Notice he still wears no shoes, even around the city. We find out the person in the middle is called Barrister McGaffey, basically the lawyer that the 5 companies have assigned to officiate this arbitration, that they have this collective agreement where they all work together for disputes like this. You can kind of tell that he's doing everything he can to purposely piss her off, like he knows that he's pissing her off and trying to egg her on as much as possible. But the way they explain the world works now because the corporations control the world, so essentially it's their rules are the new law. If one of the companies in one of these arbitrations doesn't abide by the rules that he winds up giving, whatever the judgment is, the other 5 companies will all band together with their armies and forcibly enact whatever the judgment was. So it would actually turn into a real war. Potentially, now that the world knows that the alien specimens are on the planet and they're under quarantine, if they get out of control or there's some greater threat, the other 5 companies would band together to nuke or try to nuke the Neverland Island from orbit. Morrow then identifies Boy Cavalier. Remember earlier he was trying to find out who he was, like where is the one who calls himself Cavalier so that he can slit his throat. Captain Hook getting ready for his face-off with Peter Pan eventually. When they mention the USCSS Maginot, that actually stands for United States Commercial Starship. Yutani then implies that Weyland Yutani as a company actually earns way more money than Prodigy at the moment, but the idea is that their killer new technology they're about to introduce are the hybrids, which would theoretically catapult them up to like the highest on the earnings list because it would functionally make the human race immortal, if it worked. You remember though, in the future the Alien timeline, there is no reference to hybrids at all, implying that something is going to go sideways in a spectacular, chaotic fashion by the end of the series. Something has to happen to prevent the entire human race from turning into hybrids at the end of this series. There are at least like 5 or 6 different things that seem like they're going to happen to prevent that. You kind of know the way this meeting is going to go, though. The whole idea is that Boy Cavalier tries to turn it around on her, like maybe you're the one that actually did this on purpose. Maybe you crashed that ship into my building on purpose. When we actually saw the footage, Morrow even downloaded that footage to his brain, so he could actually play back the footage at any time for anyone to out Boy Cavalier's lie, but he does not say anything. Why doesn't he mention it? Also not clear if he's told the truth to Yutani about what Boy Cavalier's plan was either. We never actually saw that scene. They implied that he might have told her the truth, but it seems like during this meeting she doesn't raise that issue at all. Like she actually has footage that she could use against him in the meeting, but she doesn't. Maybe she's just worried about what he would do with the specimens if she were to try and use that footage against him. Part of me also feels like this is a plot thing too, like this is all for plot reasons because there's only 2 episodes left.
Oh, do you want to see the pictures?
Wait.
Boy Cavalier starts acting really weird during the meeting too, acting kind of like a xenomorph, jumping on the table and just like rolling around. Really does feel like a boy that never grew up, Peter Pan style. You really are meant to despise his character, like please die in a horrible, spectacular fashion. Yutani then admits to the existence of the alien specimens on Earth, and the way the arbitrator reacts, it sounds like it's illegal to bring alien specimens to Earth like that for safety reasons. Makes sense, like why would you want parasitic creatures to come to planet Earth in the first place? They literally referenced that on the Maginot in last week's episode, like, don't be stupid, don't bring this to Earth. When she says they'll eventually be transferred to an off-world research facility, this is probably a reference to the Romulus space station from the Alien Romulus movie, which takes place 20 years after the events of the first Alien movie, which itself is 2 years after this, so 22 years after right now. They wound up using that space station to research the Xenomorph from the first Alien movie to their eventual detriment. Like, things went off the rails completely. They haggle over $20 billion settlement on top of practical damages, and then he tries to use the standard 6-week quarantine period before returning them, so it gives them enough time to continue studying them. You remember, there are only 2 weeks left on the show, though, so I don't know if they're going to do a 6-week time jump over the last 2 episodes, or it's just going to speed things up. When they mentioned the Brubaker Accord, that sounds like part of a larger deal the corporations signed when they took over the world, dividing up their different territories that they all control after this great period of civil war when democracy basically fell. Then her plan to try and get around these accords by giving him $50 billion doesn't work, setting up the need for Morrow's plan to infiltrate the island and get a live xenomorph. Thank you for the help, Arthur. Thank you for the assist. He says Prodigy has increased security on the island recently, expecting Weyland Yutani to perform a full-scale traditional assault, not expecting Morrow in his plan, even though Kirsch knows exactly what's up with that. You can kind of see him smirking in the background because he knows exactly what's happening here. Then he tells her the best option for them to get the xenomorph to get Arthur is to destabilize the facility by releasing all the alien specimens, just let them all loose, which is basically what happens by the end of the episode almost, potentially unleashing more facehuggers because there are more organic biological life forms there for facehuggers to attach to. And Prodigy will be too busy dealing with them to stop Morrow from yoinking Arthur and his chestburster. Or really just the chestburster, he doesn't care so much about Arthur. Kirsch then catches Morrow in the elevator so that they can make fun of each other and remind you that they're probably going to have a fight between the two of them by the end of the series. Morrow also calls him yesterday's model because of the hybrids being the newest technology and letting him know that he knows about the hybrids. Like, oh, I know exactly what you did with those kids. When he says he's going to chop Kirsch up, I think the idea is that we're actually going to see the two of them fight by the end of the series. We will see if there's a big twist on that, but it just seems like the two of them absolutely hate each other. When he mentions an eyeball popping feeling, that also feels like foreshadowing for the eyeball creature because they really go hard on eyeball creature by the end of this episode, really making it seem like the series is all about them, like they are the actual protagonists of the series. Sylvia then performs the memory alterations on Nibs. She wakes up in her room with Wendy, but Wendy has no idea what they just did, so causes all this confusion where she tries to explain what really happened. Nibs gets more confused, setting up the idea that something really bad, like even worse, will happen with Nibs in the next 2 episodes. And setting up Wendy's confrontation with Sylvia, where she slowly begins to realize that Prodigy, not so nice, not so good. Boy Cavalier then reads them more passages from the Peter Pan book, this time the strange boy breaking through being more of a reference to Morrow's subplot with Slightly. As they transpose footage of him, notice he's also smoking a cigar. Captain Hook loved to smoke cigars during the Peter Pan story.
But wait.
Morrow then continues to coach Slightly. Smee gets frustrated because he says everybody's cranky on the island now for all kinds of reasons, like things are just going bad for everybody on the show for different reasons now. I couldn't quite tell what Hermit is watching on his television. That could be the original animated Peter Pan movie or just more Ice Age. Seems like he really enjoys watching Ice Age. You notice he's drawing plans for his escape, probably not smart to actually put that down on paper. Slightly then shows up like a creepy ninja watching him because of the plan. He's trying to use him as the next facehugger victim, which doesn't go well because the security team that he was with formerly comes to grab him so they can go around the island. Barely saved by his squad mates. You kind of wonder what Slightly's plan was if he had not come with him. Like maybe he would have just knocked him out and drug him to the lab. But as he goes on his security patrol, they correctly note that the jungle is way less dangerous than what's in the lab. Between the alien specimens, the synths, and the hybrids, in the way things go in the rest of the episode. Definitely more safe in the jungle at this point, until, that is, the Xenomorphs eventually escape. They start talking about the boat's potential ways off the island to set up the twist with Arthur, where he actually gives him the boat code later in the episode, an actual way off the island, in case it does wind up getting nuked at some point. They're able to get off the island before that happens. His squad mate is correct. They are all expendable, these regular humans here, but she doesn't want to push things and ruin what they have. She prefers to be in a place where she knows exactly where the real monsters are. But the twist here is that Prodigy is kind of the real monsters here. That's kind of what Wendy was saying earlier in the episode, is that Prodigy are the real bad guys. We go back to the Xenomorph, who by the end of the episode looks closer to being full grown, more like teenage Xenomorph, not fully grown yet. Kirsch then contacts Isaac, remember he changed his name, or Toodles, whatever you want to think about him, to continue their lab work without him since he's still traveling back from arbitration, but I don't think that Kirsch tried to orchestrate what winds up happening next with the broken door and him being trapped inside the containment cell. Like Kirsch didn't want that to happen, he just watched it unfold. Not totally clear why he lies about Curly not being with him either. Maybe because he wants to do the work in the lab himself to prove himself somehow. Also for plot reasons, because if Curly, who was much smarter, she's shown, was with him, none of this bad stuff would have happened at the end of the episode. When he goes in and starts feeding all the different alien specimens, notice the eyeball creature just watching him closely because this is all part of their plan, like just waiting for an opportunity here. You also notice all the different things that they're feeding the alien specimens. He feeds the plant creature some biological material here, but the fly creature actually seems like it consumes inorganic material because it's all just a bunch of rocks like minerals here. There's some metal bits. It is not totally clear why he rips the feeding door off of its hinges, if this was on purpose, somebody set this up, or if it was just a sheer accident, because remember, they are super strong. Eyeball creature clocks this and is really interested because he sees him open the door and he kind of knows the way this is going to play out. Eyeball creature knows how this is going to play out. And a lot of the way that this plays out with him actually being killed by the fly creature, you have to remember only works because they are functionally children inside adult bodies, so they think, they reason like children would. That is why they seemingly do such stupid things. But it seems like the whole idea is that Eyeball Creature knew that he was going to trap himself inadvertently inside the cell because of the way the doors work. This is why it bumps the glass to scare him so that he falls completely in and the door is able to completely close, trapping him in. The exact same thing that it did distracting Chibuzno so that the tick creature could do its business in her water. Now it's just doing something similar but with the fly creature. Then we find out what the fly creatures do and what's inside the hybrid bodies when it sprays acid or some corrosive material on him, causing him to completely malfunction. And it's not clear if it permakills him, but it seems like he is dead. Like, I don't think they're going to be able to recover any of the data from him. Notice for a brief second, the eyeball creature stands on 2 legs for a second. Like, is this in triumph? Like, it's just really excited about what's happening here? A second fly creature emerges from the hive, and it just seems like they're drinking that milky fluid from the hybrid body, which is the same as the synth bodies. You remember, it seems like they feed on inorganic material, so essentially the hybrids are their food. Then when you hear Boy Cavalier's voiceover about Peter thinning out the Lost Boys when it seems like they begin to grow up too much, and the camera pans over to Eyeball Creature as it casually begins to eat in triumph, they make it seem like Eyeball Creature is just slowly picking off different people one at a time, like it is the actual Peter Pan of this scenario, the actual protagonist of the series, pulling all the strings. Eyeball Creature playing 4-dimensional chess with all these humans and synths. Probably one of the other notable things going on here, and this has actually happened during a number of different episodes for different reasons, is that there are no alarms that are going off. Like, nobody at the Prodigy base seems like they know what's going on, even though everything is heavily monitored and security just got beefed up big time recently. Literally, nobody notices what just happened. Like, a lot of the way things play out on the series in this chaotic way, like the way things just degenerate on the island, the situation, depends on really smart people being very stupid, making very stupid decisions, which they also reference on the Maginot recently, the idea that smart people can do very stupid things. Wendy then has her big standoff with Dame Sylvia about what they've done with Nibs messing with her memories and whether or not Prodigy are the real bad guys in all this, just implying that she will eventually turn against them sometime in the next couple of episodes. Just gonna take her new Xenomorph friends, her new alien specimen friends, pack it up, and leave the island. Then you notice Arthur so busy packing up his stuff, trying to leave, that he doesn't notice Isaac dead in the cell while he's sitting right on his monitor there. All he'd have to do is just turn around to see him dead in the cell. He tells Hermit he was fired. Don't worry about him, though. He has like 6 degrees. It'll be easy to get another job with another company, especially with all the work they did for Prodigy. He winds up telling him that Wendy, his sister, is not safe without saying it out loud, giving him all the things that he needs for proper escape, boat codes, turning off the trackers for the hybrids. Keep in mind that it turns off the trackers for all of the hybrids, not just for Wendy. Meaning that when things really go crazy in the last 2 episodes, that they're not going to be able to track down the different hybrids. He finally sees Toodles alert, then rushes to the lab to learn what's happened with the fly creature, giving Slightly his chance to pull off Morrow's plan, through no fault of his own, like he's just sitting there and Arthur kind of falls into his lap. Probably one of the more interesting things going on during this, aside from Morrow just coaching him along, like, you gotta do this, kid, come on, you gotta pull this off, gotta do something, put somebody in front of that egg, is actually Kirsch watching it all unfold silently on his monitor, just completely fascinated, like I said, kind of treating it like a big science experiment. Really just interested to see what it's gonna look like, what it's all gonna turn into. You have to remember that Kirsch does not care if anybody, Prodigy, anybody from the other companies, any humans at all, anybody, lives or dies. Seems like he's given off real David vibes and just wants to see how things unfold. When Arthur and Slightly jump into the lab to find out what's happened with Toodles, couple interesting things happen in rapid succession. Notice that the Xenomorph picks up on the egg when the egg reacts after the doors open to Arthur's biological presence in the general room. He doesn't have to be close to the egg just senses him within a couple meters of it. This is actually an interesting detail. I don't remember they've addressed this in the movies before. Typically, when somebody gets face hugged, it's because they've come right next to an egg for it to open. Now they're basically saying that all you have to do is be within the same room as the egg and you're done for. And while this is all going on, Eyeball Creature watches excitedly. Just seems like it's very intent, like just waiting, being very patient as the facehugger gets out, waiting for it to do its business with Arthur. While this is all playing out, Slightly finally tells Arthur the truth. He's doing this because his family's being held hostage. He doesn't say the name Morrow, but it doesn't really matter because Kirsch is watching this happen and he already knows about Morrow and what he's doing. Nobody else inside Prodigy does seem like they know yet, though. Slightly hasn't told anybody else yet. You also notice that Kirsch lies to Boy Cavalier, not telling him about the facehugger and what happened to Arthur. Slightly then drags him to the vent nearby to stash him for a couple days, like Morrow said. Just sit him off for a couple days, he'll have a bad couple days, then he'll be totally fine. Yes, because he'll be dead. My assumption is that Morrow is going to arrange for himself to break onto the island, and he'll be the one to actually capture the chest burster that comes out of Arthur. That'll also put him in proximity with Kirsch so they can have their big fight, and proximity with Boy Cavalier so he can have his Captain Hook Peter Pan face-off. Just seems like Morrow is going to eventually make his way to the island. Then even though it seems like most of the alien specimens are on their way to or have already escaped from their containment cells, they're still technically trapped inside the lab itself. Notice the way, though, the camera pans to the eyeball creature again, like everything is proceeding according to its plan. His grand or her grand escape plan continues because they did gender it female in a previous episode. This time they end the episode with Godsmack's Keep Away, which was released in 1999, so technically it is a 90s track, because at least most of the episodes have been ending with tracks from the 90s that go real hard. I think the context they use with the song is also meant to be a reference to the eyeball creature, because the lyrics actually say, "Sickness spilling through the eyes, craven everything that you thought was alive, stab me in my heart again, ah yeah, drag me through your wasted life, are you forever dead? Do like I told you, stay away from me, never misunderstand me, keep away from me, do like I told you, stay away from me, never misunderstand me, yeah." So it just seems like a reference to Eyeball Creature just pulling all of the strings here in what happened with Toodles at the end of the episode. If there's any big Easter eggs or references that you spotted in the episode that I didn't talk about in the video, just write them below in the comments. In my episode 7 trailer video, we'll post next. My full episode 7 video will post next week after they release it, so be sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss any of that. Hopefully they'll start talking more about Season 2 in the next couple weeks too. Sometimes they wait till after an entire series is done to actually announce whether or not they've renewed it, even if they've decided before the fact to actually do more seasons. Everybody click here for my episode 7 video. I'll update the link as soon as I post that, and click here for all my other Alien Earth episodes. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.